Hi guys, I hope you are fine. This is a continuation of our tutorial 5 based on financial market. So in our last section, we ended at question 2. So today we're going to carry on from question 3 onwards. So let's see, what does it say? It says there are two ways of explaining the equilibrium in demand market. Explain the equilibrium concept of supply for reserves equals demand for reserves and how this is relevant for policy making in South Africa. Okay, all need to be known here is that we have two ways of getting the equilibrium in the monetary market, right? The first one is the one that we are used to, which is supply and demand for the central bank money, okay? And the second one, which is one that we're going to talk about today, is the supply and demand for the reserve banks, or for the reserves from the central bank, And how does this work, okay? This work in such a way that if there is a lack of reserves in the monetary market, the central bank is basically called to offset this lack of of reserves. In what way? In which way? It is going to refinance the system. Okay, if it refinances the system, we are going to have some sort of, like, the commercial banks, they're going to be more liquid compared to if the central bank does not basically refinance the system. Okay, so how does this work? It works in basically the same way as a normal demand and supply for the central bank money. Okay, the only difference is that we have another name of the interest rate, right? The interest rate that is used to adjust this market, we call it the repo rate, or the purchase rate, right? So in another words, if the commercial banks go to the central bank for them to get reserves, the central bank is going to charge them what we call the repo rate. Okay, so for the central bank to adjust this to get the market in equilibrium, they are going to either, increase or decrease the repo rate depending on what is the situation of the market in that moment. All right. So this is what basically happens in on the other side if we are looking at the reserves. But in terms of the market forces, they are still the same. We have supply, we have demand. If supply of that reserve is high, something happens to the interest rate. And if the demand for that particular reserve is low, we are going to have some other, let's say, behavior, or the repo rate, or the interest rate is going to behave in another way. So this is all we can say regarding the other way of looking, or of getting equilibrium in the monetary market. So in summary, maybe we can just say the other way is explained by demand and supply for reserves, and this is done by let's say through this is done through the repo rate. Very good. This is what basically happens. Okay, so we can just jump to another question, which is the last one, question 4. Question 4, liquidity trap. Very good. Let's see, what does the question say. With the appropriate theory, framework, and graph, discuss the following concept: liquidity trap. This was supposed to be just one concept show. So, in other words, what is liquidity trap? Maybe first I can just draw the graph, or even before the graph. Liquidity trap is a situation whereby the interest rate it hits its lower bound. In other words, it hits what we call in economics zero lower bound. And once it hits that zero lower bound, we are caught in a situation whereby the monetary policy is no longer effective. Why isn't it no longer effective? This means that even if the central bank it keeps increasing money supply, on and on and on. Basically, this is not going to have an effect. Okay, in a real world, how does it happen? Let's suppose that we are going through a recession, right? And the only way maybe of getting rid of that recession is supplying money, or is increasing the money supply in order to decrease the interest rate, and assuming that people are going to get more loans, and they're going to invest more and more and more. If they're investing, basically investment is going to increase, and on the other hand, consumption is also going to increase, and so on and so forth. So we could, at least doing so, we could boost the economy so that it moves on, all right? But what if all of these strategies or all of these policies are not working out at that particular moment? The central bank supplies money. If it supplies money, even though it supplies money, the economy is not moving on. It gets stuck at the same point, all right? And it sees like, okay, it's fine. Let me again try and increase money supply. It increases money supply again. The interest rate, like the more the central bank increases money supply, the central bank also follows the movement, all right? It is going to decrease in the same proportion that the central bank is increasing money supply. And it reached a point whereby it hits the lower bound, all right? Once it reaches that lower bound, basically what happens is that people or consumers, they are going to have enough money for them for their daily transactions, all right? That word is even hard for them to purchase whatever they want to purchase. So, in other words, for the consumers to hold money and bonds, they become indifferent. Why? I explain myself. Because holding money and holding bonds, both of them, they pay the same interest rate. All right. If both of these ways or attitudes or decisions, they pay the same interest rate, which is zero interest rate, where's the point of me holding bonds, or either bond or money? Everything is equal. So if the central bank from that point onwards, it keeps increasing money supply, that monetary policy is going to have impact. Okay, the results that the central bank might be looking for that are not going to be yielded. So from that moment on, the question is, okay, how do we do it? Do we just leave the economy and assume that it is going to readjust in the long term, which can happen, all right? Just looking at the market forces. But what if you want to intervene and do something in order for the economy to grow, all right? Okay, it is well known. The reason why we are having interest rate going down and down and down, and people holding money, is that they have expectation that the interest rate is going to increase in time soon. If the interest rate is increasing in time zone, they are going to, like, borrowing money. It is going to be, let's suppose, so expensive. Okay, so they don't go and borrow money, and that's it. They have enough money. So for us, or for the government, or for the central bank to adjust those expectations from the consumers, they need to immediately to increase the interest rate. If they increase the interest rate, basically they are doing what the consumers are expecting to happen. But then the only difference is that they are doing it before the time, the expected time, So this is one way, increasing the interest rate. The second way is increasing government spending, okay? If they increase government spending, like if we stop a little bit looking at, relying on monetary policy because it's no longer effective anyway, we move on and see which one, what is the other policy that we can use that can yield good results, okay? So we move to fiscal policy. If we move towards fiscal policy, we need to know what kind of thing can be done in order for that fiscal policy work, and the government should basically increase government spending. If it increases, we have already stressed that government spending is one of the components of GDP. Anything that happens to government spending, it is going to have an impact on our GDP. So if government increases their government spending, basically they are giving some sort of boost in the economy for it to grow. So this is also one way out to get rid of this. I can show you here graphically how does this thing happen. Very good. There we go. There we go. All right. So we have this situation. We have this situation. This is basically the, let's call it M1. MS0 or MS. And this is our first equilibrium. Of course, this is the interest rate, and this is man supply. Very good. So what happens is that we have here in this point, we are going through a recession, and we are looking for a way out for us to get rid of it. All right, the central bank decides to increase money supply. If it increases money supply, this curve, it shifts to the right. It shifts to the right. Let's suppose this is the first movement, and somehow the interest rate decreases to interest rate 2. But even though the economy is still in the recession, right? Well, again, I would call this maybe point B. Again, the central bank thinks like, let me maybe again try and increase money supply. So in this case, maybe people are going to see that the interest rate is low. If the interest rate is low, they are going to borrow money, they are going to invest. Once again, it decides and increases money supply. And the interest rate decreases near closer or equals to 0. In this case, I will assume that it's going to be equal to 0. All right. even going to write here 0. From this point onwards, right, what basically is going to happen is that here we'll have our point C, okay, we will have our point C. And from this point onwards, if the central bank keeps increasing money supply, what we will have is that people are going to be indifferent from holding money or holding bonds, because both of them, they pay the same interest rate, and which is 0 interest rate, right? So this is the reason why that the movement is going to be horizontal, and it is going to come here. If, for example, I have to join these points, or maybe I'm going to use maybe I should use this one. I should use this one so that I draw it first, right? Okay, this is going to go like this. From this point, it's no longer going to go down, it's just going to fall this and go and go and go. So from this point, it's no longer advisable for the central bank to keep decreasing, to keep increasing money supply, because the interest rate, even if it goes down, even because there is a situation whereby interest rate decreases, even it hits like negative points, but it's not good at all, So from now, this moment on, it is good for the government to, in terms of the policy implication, right, to stop and think a little bit. Is it good for us to keep relying on the monetary policy for us to boost the economy, or can maybe shift to the fiscal policy? All right. So in this case, it is real advisable for the government to move to the fiscal policy, okay, and try and do something else on this. All right, so this was our second part of the tutorial. If you have any issue, please, again, don't hesitate, just email us on santosnekasbila@gmail.com. And thank you very much. Bye bye, see you in the next tutorial.